Hare Krishna. Welcome to Krishna book, Container 2, Class 12.
Yeah.
And we'll have some reflections and we'll go into our reading, and we're also going to talk about the shape of the container as we're wrapping it up next week. But first, as always, some kirtan.
Kirtan. Okay, welcome, sweet souls. Let's drop in together. Let's take a clearing breath first. Inhale through your nose, fill up. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Inhale, opening prayers. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Bhakti House Sangha and beyond ki, Tuesday Shastri Study Group ki, Hari Hari Bol.
Om Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so let's start with some reflections. We got through chapter 49 last week and halfway through chapter 50. Got some nice reflections in the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Maybe you can pull it up on your phone, Kishori, and I can.
Yeah.
Well, while you're doing that, can I reflect? Because I didn't have time to write anything.
That's what it's all about. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I read this chapter a couple of times because I was just, I don't know, I guess I was just sort of fascinated with the introduction of all the characters that we met in the Gita, right? So, and I just loved how it was explained, you know, the basically do the right thing, and you'll live a better life. You know, treat these sons as well as you treat these other sons, you know, and it just really illustrated, you know, why Krishna exists and what the lessons really are, is to, you know, to live in the mode of goodness, you know, as best you can, even though, you know, we know that there are the three modes of material nature always at play and always trying to compete for your attention and your, you know, and Krishna consciousness is all about trying to keep that in balance. But just seeing it just, you know, described in characters that we're all so familiar with, having been, you know, part of this for, well, for me anyway, almost 6 years now, you know, reading about the Gita and these characters, I just found it really interesting and fascinating, you know, how they were using these characters that we know and love so much to really talk about the morality and the, you know, ethical reasons behind the lessons.
Yeah, Krishna consciousness is not, it's not completely separate from, you know, moral ideas and principles. It's just that it includes them for sure, because our understanding is that, you know, humans are born with a moral compass, and we develop it through good association, and we have this conscience, and there is an existence of like moral principles and values, ultimately because of the existence of Krishna and his relationship with us and with the world. The ultimate reason why we feel good when we do good things is because it satisfies him. And that which makes something ultimately good is that it satisfies the supreme person, ultimately. I mean, directly or indirectly, like, you know, if you're practicing bhakti, that's certainly like a direct appreciation of directly pleasing Krishna. But just like someone can say, you know, if you obey the traffic laws and you're law abiding, you could be said to be satisfying the leader of your country, because you're operating in a cooperative fashion. So similarly, so-called mundane morality is not outside the realm of Krishna consciousness. Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Devotion that devotees are careful in their ordinary dealings. So we have, like here, questions of truthfulness and honesty and fairness and justice, and we have these great devotees playing it out. And Krishna called it out. He said, you know, Akrura, please go look and report back to me, because I think that Dhritarashtra is being unfair with the Pandavas. And it's also like, it's not a big enough scale where it really shows up, because this is not just like some uncle, you know, playing fast and loose with the family fortune or whatever. This has implications for who's going to take care of the country. So many innocent people are depending on the ruler being qualified and compassionate. And if he's not, because of nepotism, it's kind of what it comes down to, Duryodhana's a nepo baby. It's just like your daddy got you that position. You didn't earn it. Then it affects a lot of other people besides just himself. And that's so relatable because in this world, those are the kinds of questions, equity and justice that we deal with. And here we see it in the light of Krishna consciousness is that ultimately Krishna would like the world to be, as much as possible, operated in a mode of fairness and justice and dharmic principles because it gives everybody a chance to live peacefully, relatively, because it is basically like a temporary world and, you can still get hit crossing the street. Stuff can still happen. But if you have a peaceful, ordered society, less random chaos happens and it's more the successful human life lets you just gratify your senses in an appropriate way. And then ultimately, having done that, you can then, oh, what about something higher? So it's all part of the plan. So these moral things are not just like irrelevant. Krishna cares because it gives people a chance to come closer to him. And we're seeing that like on this little case by case basis. Krishna's like actually micromanaging what's happening here because it's such a critical relationship. Did he rig the election? What happened? Krishna's like, is he supposed to be in power? Is he being fair? Did he count it's actually not a democratic procedure. It's actually a little different, but I'm putting it in terms we can relate to. Krishna wants to make sure that the people are represented properly. Thank you. Yes, Nancy.
Thank you.
Tanya, were you have another comment?
Yeah. No,
did you jump in? I'm sorry, I thought you did.
Yeah.
I'm just so shocked, not shocked, I'm never shocked, but a juxtaposition of being, so blind, Dhritarashtra being so blind to the fact that he had to have been learning everything that we're learning now, but he was so consumed by this is mine. I need mine to be ahead. Mine has to win. My sons have to be the leaders here, and therefore, I don't see anything else. And the other part that's such a funny thing for me, I was not fortunate enough. I was probably asleep. Didn't realize about the session 1 for these reading the Krishna book. So I was fortunate because Shori gave me the link to go back. And I've been reading and going back to the session 1 and listening to everybody from there. I'm like, nice. What a naughty little boy, right? And he's doing all this stuff, and you for me to be able to say, he wants everything to be dharmic and everybody to be kind and just, and he's so naughty. Well, yeah, but it's a different Leela. You can't be practicing what Krishna's doing. Krishna's teaching us, at least for me, what I'm learning from it is he loves us so much. He's going to show us every single emotion that's possible for us to be able to get deeper and deeper into love with him. But that's not for somebody else to be able to do. I'm not going to be doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's to be appreciated, but not emulated.
Right.
We can't. I mean, especially outside of
a 3-year-old grandson who's starting to emulate him.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, especially in Vrindavan, Krishna will be a little bit looser with these things because he's showing in Vrindavan how love is the highest principle, and loving him is a higher principle than chastity to somebody's mundane husband or this or that, or his pleasure, his joy, his pastimes of sport are more important than the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Because he'll sometimes tell little lies and he'll steal and he'll do little things, and that's okay. But we don't emulate that. It's actually like historically there's a precedent there that some people have tried to emulate Krishna in inappropriate ways. And so our acharyas, and you'll see Srila Prabhupada in various places, is very firm on this, that's a sign of what he calls rascaldom. It's like the idea that you can actually take the place of God, the supreme enjoyer. I mean, one time Srila Prabhupada was having a conversation with a very educated, very refined gentleman who was a professor, but he was challenging Srila Prabhupada that he said, you're Krishna, this Krishna you worship, when he was a young man, he was dancing with the wives of other men. So it seems like Krishna is, I don't know what the word he used was, inappropriate, or is an adulterer, or, like that. And Prabhupada said, so, okay, I understand what you're saying. Now let me ask you something. Are you married? And this gentleman said, yes. I said, okay, so your wife, she's your wife? Yes. You have a partner, you have a wife. He said, yes. Prabhupada said, okay. And then he said something very strong. He said, okay, actually, so what I understand is you're actually inappropriate. Krishna's not inappropriate. You're inappropriate. Because that is Krishna's part and parcel. And you're thinking that it belongs to me. This is my wife. She's for me to enjoy. I am her husband. You're not her husband. Only Krishna's her husband. Krishna's your husband. Krishna's her husband. He's everybody's. But you're thinking she's yours. Therefore, you're stepping outside the lines of Dharma. Krishna can dance with anybody he wants. Everybody belongs to him. That's only for him to do. Only for him to do. If somebody tries to imitate that, either unconsciously because they're just living out their material life, or consciously, which is even worse. It's like, yeah, I practice Krishna consciousness, therefore I try to imitate Krishna. I steal and I lie and I do whatever I want in the middle of the night. It's like, no, that's first-class rascaldom. And so outside of Vrindavan, we see more of the straightforward instructions that we see, like, in Ramachandra's Leela, for example, where it's like, do as I say and as I do. I'm going to do the right thing. And here's like Krishna standing up for justice and morality. And, he's a husband. He's going to get married soon. He's going to live like a dharmic husband, married life. Fatherhood is there. Rulership is there. And those grihasta or householder pastimes are for the attached members of society to learn how to live and fulfill their material duties as a husband, son, wife, daughter, mother, whatever, and still be Krishna conscious. The other stuff is just Krishna having fun the way only he can. So correctly identified, that's to appreciate, not to emulate. Eileen.
So simple observation, but I thought it was really beautiful to kind of see Akrura in this Acharya trusted advisor position, and how Krishna sends him to give Dhritarashtra a chance. Like, Krishna's always willing to give us a chance and giving us that knowledge to be able to come to him. And so, I'll use Nancy's word juxtaposition of like looking at Dhritarashtra as like the false ego. Like, he even says, yeah, I believe in Krishna. Like, I put my faith in Krishna, but I'm gonna still do my own thing. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like, I do that. Like, I know there's Krishna and I love him. And there's been times in my practice where like different teachers have been like, okay, but if you really think that, like, you wouldn't be doing this, or you're not really surrendering because you're still holding on. And so it's like you see so much of yourself in Dhritarashtra, and then you get to see the juxtaposition of Queen Kunti, who is like fully surrendered. And all she wants to know is like, are they thinking about me? Do they, ask about me? How are they doing? Like, all she can do is be absorbed in Krishna and Balaram, juxtaposed to Dhritarashtra, who's just like, yeah, I know he's there, but I'm like, I'm gonna do the thing. So
it's pretty real.
Yeah. It's
Spiritual life is ultimately meant for, one kind of metric you can look for is that you're being compassionate to others and stringent on yourself, strict with yourself, rather than strict with others and very loose with your own moral standing or how much you're following. When we hear about Dhritarashtra, it's actually very eye-opening, because in a vacuum you'd think like, wow, he associated with Krishna, and at least intellectually he gets it. As others were pointing out, both live and also online, with the WhatsApp comments, how is that he's still making the choice he's making? And yet, that's the human condition. We still have free will. You can have everything handed to you on a silver platter. You can be born into the most amazing condition, materially or spiritually, and yet you can turn your back on it. You can do that at any time. You can decide to do that. You can decide to willingly make an error. It's like, I know if I go back for seconds, it's going to hurt me later. I know I'm going to complain about this tomorrow. I know this is exactly what I told myself last time I wouldn't do, but I don't care. I just want to go back for seconds. You can do that as many times as you want to. It's available. And so Dhritarashtra is this kind of, and we're going to see it again later, this stubborn refusal to do what's in your own best interests. Not just what's right, because yeah, it's obviously the right thing to do to treat Arjuna and the Pandavas correctly, but it's also in his own best interest. He's going to suffer for making the wrong choice, but he refuses. He's so attached. And that's actually very relatable if we look at ourselves in a humble way. It's like, yeah, there are places in my life where I'm a hypocrite, where I know this isn't right. And if someone else said they were doing this, I'd be like, is that the aligned choice? But I'm still craving that lower taste, right? And I still give into it sometimes willingly, willfully. Dhritarashtra is just that to like, a great degree.
Yeah, and how interesting that he's actually blind.
Yeah, he was blind from birth, but he's also
And he's
morally and spiritually blind.
He's spiritually blind.
Yeah, which is why he never actually ruled either, because he himself was physically and spiritually unqualified to function in that role.
So he also could have been that carried resentment.
Perhaps. Ultimately, a leader is a servant, not an enjoyer. You're in a position of responsibility. Your fundamental purpose is to serve, not to enjoy. If you serve properly as a leader, you will enjoy. You have a lot of privileges. That's part of the package, but that's secondary to your service. So Dhritarashtra got it backwards. I'll enjoy, and sometimes in my spare time I'll serve, which is not unusual for somebody in a position of privilege. So, there's that. Yeah. Any more? That's a lot of nice reflections. Any more before we go into our reading? Okay. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Jai Krishna Baki Jai. So we're in chapter 50. If you're listening and you're reading along, we're about halfway through. We're on the beginning of the paragraph that starts with, as he was returning home. Wait. Yes. As he was returning home with his royal friends, however. Yeah. So the rundown so far in this chapter is that Jarasandha was the father-in-law of Kamsa. Jarasandha's daughters married Kamsa. And Kamsa was killed by Krishna. And we know what kind of rascal Kamsa was. We've been hearing about that. He was willing to do anything and everything to stay in power and to stay alive. And yet, Jarasandha is attached because, hey, now his daughters are widows, and that really sucks. And, it makes Christmas dinner super awkward. And now they got to live with me. And it's like all these things, these attachments are being challenged. And we got into the hypocrisy of Jarasandha where he said, Krishna, you killed members of your own family. That's so wrong. But he refused to say anything. When his own son-in-law was tyrannizing Vrindavan, murdering innocent children, he didn't say anything then. He wasn't so attached to Dharma then. We see the attachments there. So anyway, Jarasandha is this kind of person. He's a hypocrite, but he's also very powerful. He's gathered armies, and he's gone to attack Krishna and Dwarka. Krishna and Balaram have single-handedly, the two of them together, grand total of 2 chariots and 2 men, Krishna and Balaram, wiped out the army, liberating everybody, leaving only Jarasandha alive. Jarasandha was captured, and Krishna didn't kill him. He set him free. It's indicated he had a certain plan. He said to Balaram, let him go. And so Jarasandha is ashamed because as a warrior, to be captured like that, to be the last man alive in your own army, it's better to be dead. He was so completely dismantled. He was like humiliated. So now he's decided to go to the forest and practice austerities and just give up. It's like, oh, I'm done with this. I got my rear end handed to me. It's over. And we're picking up with as he was returning home. As he was returning home with his royal friends, however, they advised him not to retire, but to regain strength to fight again with Krishna in the near future. The princely friends of Jarasandha instructed him that ordinarily it would not have been possible for him to be defeated by the strength of the Yadu kings. The defeat he had experienced was simply due to his ill luck. The princely order encouraged Jarasandha. His fighting, they said, was certainly heroic, therefore he should not take his defeat very seriously, since it was due only to his past misdeeds. After all, there was no fault in his fighting. In this way, Jarasandha, the king of Magadha province, having lost all his strength and having been insulted by his arrest and subsequent release, could do nothing but return to his kingdom. Thus, Lord Krishna conquered the soldiers of Jarasandha. Although Krishna's army was tiny in comparison to Jarasandha's, not a pinch of his strength was lost, whereas all of Jarasandha's men were killed. So compare and contrast. Jarasandha sends 10 million people on the battlefield. 9,999,999 are killed, everyone but him. And he's only spared because Krishna lets him go. Everyone is killed and liberated. On the other side, 0. That's the score, you know? It's like, how'd the baseball game go? Oh, 999,999,999 to 0. And yet, his friends are saying, Jarasandha, you had the sun in your eyes. You woke up on the wrong side of the bed. It was just not your day. You know, get back in there, champ. You got this. This is the causeless optimism of the materialist. Never, ever, ever, it's never happened in the history of humanity, in any age, in any galaxy, in any universe, has anyone ever conquered Krishna's modes of nature. No one has ever become immortal on their own strength. No one has ever become a usurper of the throne of God. Never happened. And yet people keep trying to do it. Today's my day. I got this. So Jarasandha was actually, he was sobered and humbled in his humiliation. The word humiliation comes from the Latin word for ground. To be brought back to earth, right? To be brought back humble, down. He's brought back real low, back to his actual position. Wow, I suck. I don't know what I'm doing trying to conquer Krishna. This was a terrible idea. I'm done with this. That's truth. And his friends, power of association, his friends are so convinced. No, you got this. You got this, buddy. They cheer him on. Let's see what happens. The denizens of heaven were very much pleased, and they offered their respects by chanting in glorification of the Lord and showering him with flowers and accepting the victory with great appreciation. Jarasandha returned to his kingdom, and Mathura city was saved from the danger of imminent attack. The citizens of Mathura organized the combined services of professional singers like Sutas and Magathas, along with poets who could compose nice songs, and they began to chant the victory glorification of Lord Krishna. When Lord Krishna entered the city after the victory, many bugles, conchas, and kettle drums sounded, and the vibrations of various musical instruments like bheris, turiyas, viennas, flutes, and mridangas all joined together to make a beautiful reception. While Krishna was entering, the whole city was cleansed. All the different streets and roads were sprinkled with water, and the inhabitants, being joyous, decorated their respective houses and shops with flags and festoons. The Brahmanas chanted Vedic mantras at numerous places. The people constructed road crossings and gates at entrances to lanes and streets. When Lord Krishna was entering the nicely decorated city of Mathura in a festive attitude, the ladies and girls of Mathura prepared different kinds of flower garlands to make the ceremony most auspicious. In accordance with the Vedic custom, they took yogurt mixed with fresh green grass and strewed it here and there to make the victory jubilation even more auspicious. As Krishna passed through the street, all the ladies and women regarded him with eyes bright with great affection. Krishna and Balaram carried various kinds of ornaments, jewels, and other booty, carefully collected from the battlefield, and presented it all to King Ugrasena. That's Kamsa's father, who was going to be killed by Kamsa. Ugrasena is a good guy. Had a bad seed of a son, but Krishna has reinstalled him on the throne. Krishna thus offered his respect to his grandfather because Ugrasena was at that time the crowned king of the Yadu dynasty. So here we have a vision of, like, supreme victory. It's like if your team wins the World Series or the Stanley Cup or the, I don't know, whatever, one of these, the World Cup of soccer, Olympic gold. It's like that, but with Krishna, it's like here you have unexpected victory. You were severe underdogs. Your whole city was being surrounded by multiple armies, and Krishna and Balaram single-handedly went out there and protected everybody. So you can imagine the jubilation, the joy, the reckless abandon. Like, it's like, Haribo! It's a party. They were decorating their whole city. Everything's like beautiful lights, flags, festoons, eat the best food, serve the best everything, flowers everywhere. So this is what it's like being Krishna's devotee. It's like it's constant parties. The latest party is Krishna just defeated Jarasandha. Now shift over to Jarasandha. Jarasandha, the king of Magadha, besieged the city of Mathura not only once, but 17 times in the same way, equipped with the same number of military phalanxes. Each and every time he was defeated, and all his soldiers were killed by Krishna. How many?
17.
Yeah, and how many soldiers were killed every time? Not most. Every single one. And each time he had to return home disappointed. Each time, the princely order of the Yadu dynasty arrested Jarasandha in the same way, and again released him in an insulting manner. And each time, Jarasandha shamelessly returned home. So this is the perseverance, the persistence of materialistic thought. How stubborn we can be. It's like the living entity always has free will. They can always be like, you know, wait a minute. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Maybe I could try not fighting Krishna. Maybe I'm missing something. Einstein said that a problem cannot be solved on the same level that created it. So instead of running your head up against that wall, maybe you could just look at, maybe what I'm doing is based on a mistake to begin with. Maybe my original calculation was wrong and I'm not supposed to conquer Krishna. And Jarasandha is an example of not doing that. Like doubling down 17 times. It's actually kind of funny. While Jarasandha was attempting his 18th attack, a Yavana king somewhere to the south of Mathura became attracted by the opulence of the Yadu dynasty and also attacked the city. It is said that the king of the Yavanas, known as Kali Yavana, was induced to attack by Narada.
Instigating yet again.
Yeah.
Divine instigator.
This story is narrated in the Vishnu Purana. Once, Gargamuni, the priest of the Yadu dynasty, was taunted by his brother-in-law. When the kings of the Yadu dynasty heard the taunt, they laughed at him. And Gargamuni became angry at the Yadu kings. He decided that he would produce someone who would be very fearful to the Yadu dynasty. So he pleased Lord Shiva and received from him the benediction of a son. He begot this son, Kali Yavana, and the wife of a Yavana king. Yavana means like somebody not in Vedic culture, somebody who's like, you know, a human being, but they're operating under mixed modes of nature, not like a dharmic, Vedic, you know, spiritually oriented culture. Kind of like
The US.
I mean, I was gonna say like raiders and barbarians and
Oh, okay.
no need to name names here. This Kali Yavan inquired from Narada, who are the most powerful kings in the world? Narada informed him that the Yadus were the most powerful. Thus informed, Kali Yavan attacked the city of Mathura at the same time that Jarasandha tried to attack it for the 18th time. Kali Yavan was very eager to declare war on a king of the world who would be a suitable combatant for him, but he had not found any. However, being informed about Mathura by Narada, he thought it wise to attack this city with 30 million Yavana soldiers.
30 million.
30 million. When Mathura was thus besieged, Lord Sri Krishna began to consider, in consultation with Baladev, how much the Yadu dynasty was in distress, being threatened by the attacks of two formidable enemies, Jarasandha and Kali Yavana. Time was growing short. Kali Yavana was already besieging Mathura from all sides, and it was expected that the day after next, Jarasandha would also come, equipped with the same number of divisions of soldiers as is in his previous 17 attempts. In war, you don't want to ever be surrounded. You know, you don't want to fight a battle on two fronts. Krishna was certain that Jarasandha would take advantage of the opportunity to capture Mathura when it was also being besieged by Kali Yavana. He therefore thought it wise to take precautionary measures for defending against an attack upon Mathura from two strategic points. If both Krishna and Balaram were engaged in fighting with Kaliyavan at one place, Jarasandha might come at another to attack the whole Yadu family and take his revenge. Jarasandha was very powerful, and having been defeated 17 times, he might vengefully kill the members of the Yadu dynasty, or arrest them and take them to his kingdom. Krishna therefore decided to construct a formidable fort where no two-legged animal, either man or demon, could enter. He decided to keep his relatives there so that he would then be free to fight the enemy. It appears that formerly Dwarka was also part of the kingdom of Mathura. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Krishna constructed the fort in the midst of the sea. Remnants of the fort Krishna constructed still exist in the bay of Dwarka.
Have you ever seen it?
I have not. Krishna first of all constructed a very strong wall covering 96 square miles. And the wall itself was within the sea. It was certainly wonderful and was planned and constructed by Vishvakarma. No ordinary architect can construct such a fort within the sea, but an architect like Vishvakarma, who is considered to be the engineer among the demigods, can execute such wonderful craftsmanship anywhere in the universe. If huge planets can float in weightlessness in outer space by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, surely the architectural construction of a fort covering 96 square miles within the sea was not very wonderful. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that this new, well-constructed city, developed within the sea, had regular planned roads, streets, and lanes. There were also well-planned parks and gardens filled with plants known as kalpavrikshas, or desire trees. These desire trees are not like the ordinary trees of the material world. The desire trees are found in the spiritual world. By Krishna's supreme will, everything is possible, so such desire trees were planted in Dwarka, the city constructed by Krishna. The city was also filled with many palaces and gopuras, or big gates. These gopuras are still found in some of the larger temples. They are very high and constructed with fine artistic skill. Such palaces and gates held golden water pots, kalasha. These water pots on the gates or on the palaces are considered auspicious signs. Almost all the palaces were skyscrapers. In each and every house, there were underground rooms containing big golden and silver pots for stocking grain, and there were many golden water pots within the rooms. The bedrooms were all bedecked with jewels, and the floors were mosaic pavements of Marakata jewels. The Vishnudiri, worshipped by the descendants of Yadu, was installed in each house in the city. The residential quarters were so arranged that the different castes, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras had their respective quarters. It appears from this that the caste system mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita existed even at that time. In the center of the city was a residence made specifically for King Ugrasena. This was the most dazzling of all the houses. You know, a little bit of commentary, the caste system mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Guna Karma Vipagushaha, that's the actual Sanskrit. People are differentiated according to their qualities and their activities. They're not differentiated according to their birth. The idea that you're differentiated according to your birth is a modern invention. It's a shortcutting. It's like, oh, my dad was a Brahmin, so I'm a Brahmin. No, you may have more facility to be trained like that. You may even have a genetic predisposition for it, but you actually have to show it. You know, otherwise it's just another example of nepotism. So the caste system, when we talk about caste system, if you talk to any random person, have you heard the caste system? That's what they're talking about. They're talking about a material structure that warped the actual structure Krishna was talking about. The actual structure is that people have their nature. It may be that your nature is to be a Brahmin or a leader and administrator, or you're a Vaishya and you're meant to take care of the natural world, or be a business person, or you're a Shudra, you're into arts and crafts and those kinds of things, or you may have a mixture of natures, but you have a nature. So here it's like saying you had the artist district, you had the business district, you had the administrative district, you had the intellectual district, where it's like the Brahmins living very simply, you know. So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about like a caste system where it's rigid and you're born and you're stuck in that. That's what we think of because that's what we know in Kali Yuga, today's world. That's just, something useful being manipulated because somebody has something to gain. As soon as you have the idea that, we're born into some system, then follow the money trail. Who's profiting by that idea? Somebody is. And of course, that's where such ideas come from.
I had a question. So
Yes.
did they abandon Mathura then? Because Ugrasena is now in Dwarka?
They're going to get to that. I think Krishna's Prabhupada's going to explicitly say that.
Okay, sorry.
And if he doesn't by the end of the
Russia.
chapter, I'll answer it. No, it's okay. In the center of the city was a residence made specifically for King Ugrasena. This was the most dazzling of all the houses. When the demigod Indra saw that Krishna was constructing a particular city of his own choice, he sent the celebrated Parijata tree of the heavenly planets to be planted in the new city. And he also sent a parliamentary house, Sudharma. The specific quality of this assembly house was that anybody participating in a meeting within it would overcome the influence of invalidity due to old age. So the demigods are all servants of Krishna. They're blessing his new home, his city on this planet with heavenly gifts. The demigod Varuna presented a horse which was all white except for black ears and which could run at the speed of the mind. Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, presented the art of attaining the 8 perfectional stages of material opulence. In this way, all the demigods began to present their respective gifts according to their different capacities. There are 33 million demigods, each entrusted with a particular department of universal management. All the demigods took the opportunity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's constructing a city of his own choice to present their respective gifts, making the city of Dwarka unique within the universe. This proves that while there are undoubtedly innumerable demigods, none of them is independent of Krishna. As stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna is the Supreme Master, and all others are his servants. So all the demigods took the opportunity to render service to Krishna when he was personally present within this universe. This example should be followed by all, especially those who are Krishna conscious, for they should serve Krishna by their respective abilities. Yeah, whatever gift you have, Indra has some gifts because he's a certain kind of demigod. Kuvera is a treasurer, so he gave a gift that's appropriate. If you have a certain capacity, use it in Krishna's service. Because the idea is that if you use it in Krishna's service, it's like you handing it to Krishna personally, because you're not using it for you. Even if you're not handing it to him personally, because he's not present before you personally, you want to engage it in service. That art and science of how to engage your propensities in Krishna's service is basically how we live as devotees. It's like we're internally seeing that whatever I have as a gift, it's temporarily been allotted to me to administrate, to look over, to give care to, and that could be money, it could be a skill, it could be my words, it could be my energy, it could be my family, it could be my own body. And we're just trying to engage that and offer it back. That it's not for me, it's for you. We go grocery shopping, we get some bananas, we offer some bananas to Krishna. It's like we're engaging it because we didn't make the bananas. We didn't even really make the money to get the bananas. It's part of Krishna's system that we even have the capacity to do that. So just offering it back is just what devotees do. So all the demigods are doing that because they're all devotees. When the new city was fully constructed, according to plan, Krishna transferred all the inhabitants of Mathura and installed Sri Balaram as the city father. There's the answer to your question. Yes, they abandoned Mathura. After this, he consulted with Balaram, and being garlanded with lotus flowers, but carrying no weapons, he came out of the city to meet Kalyavana, who had already surrounded Mathura. So thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 50th chapter of Krishna. Krishna erects the Dwarka fort. So he's protected the residents by taking them somewhere safe. Remember, Krishna left Vrindavan for the same reason. He knew that he had to deal with these people like Jarasandha and his armies. That's part of why he appeared on the earth. There's still a problem. They're still wreaking havoc. He couldn't do it living in Vrindavan because they would come for him there. and there would be chaos. So he's always thinking how to protect the devotees. So he left Vrindavan so they'd be safe. Because without him there, no one cares about Vrindavan. It's just an anonymous cow herding village. And now he's in Mathura and they're targeted. So he's sent them off. He said, Balaram, you be with them. You take care of them. I'm going to deal with this Kali Yavana. Let's pause here for questions, reflections, or comments. Anything that stood out?
I wonder how he transferred all the inhabitants.
Yeah. How did he transfer all the inhabitants?
It was like
I don't think the Bhagavatam spelled it out for us.
really cool to think about.
Maybe they went to sleep and they woke up the next day in Dwarka. Did he inform them ahead of time that it was going to happen? Did he surprise them? I got you a city.
Yeah. Did they have to caravan, or did he just snap his fingers? Or
I don't think they had to anything.
Yes.
Krishna just makes whatever he wants happen. If he caravan, it's because he wanted the caravan.
yeah.
Imagine like even moving your own house, one family is such an ordeal.
Such not
And like,
moves.
oh, I like my old room better. This house is better in some ways, but I like my neighbors or more square footage. Krishna just like made everything good. No complaints. Only God can do that.
Right, and the city was still encircled, right? They still
Yeah,
so
he went back.
obviously didn't caravan. He must have somehow
Airplanes,
mystically got them out.
mantra,
So cool.
yogic power.
Where all those movies and stuff come from. It's like so often we come back to it all started. It's all in the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
What every sci-fi, whatever, time
Wonder
travel, Wonder Woman, all the stuff.
Airplane.
Visible airplane, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Krishna's like, leave them out of it. It's me you want. And he like sends the innocents away and he's gonna like stand there one-on-one with, well, one versus the whole army of Kali Yavana, 30 million people.
And then it makes me think of like the 10 wonders of the world and how there's like Atlantis under the ocean and like, all these things and like you can still see remnants of the city that he built.
From a previous age, yeah.
It's like, we don't know where these things came from or.
That's why it's good to read Bhagavatam.
Yeah. Really
It really
cool.
gives you a glimpse into the potentials, the amazing things that have happened. Any more reflections before we start chapter 51?
So I just wanted to clarify in my head that what he built was in the sea.
Yes, it was in the sea. He created a city within the sea.
And then moved all the people from Mathura to there to protect them.
Yeah.
And the Bay of Dvaraka is still there. I mean, the remnants are still there.
Yeah. Who knows how he fed everybody, how you transport in and out, but he made it work.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. But it's like that. He
So
put,
maybe
they
this
lived in the
wall
sea.
kept the sea out, and so, because they've got trees are being put in, so that it's in the sea, but it's like an island. It's created like an island.
I don't know. I've never specialized in Dwarka.
It's special place. And I love the fact that the demigods are all like, oh, let's make it even more special.
Giving them gifts.
What a blessing to be able
The
to.
housewarming party, but for a whole city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's fantastic.
Wait,
Anyone else?
I have
Anya?
something else. Yeah, I do. I'm fascinated with just the stubbornness and just just no matter what is happening around him, just continuing to charge at Krishna, even though he's lost, 17 times.
Yeah.
It's fascinating to me. And I can think of way too many examples in my, my lifetime of people and situations that aren't reading the tea leaves around them or aren't seeing the world around them. And they continue with that just kind of ignorant stubbornness. And when the world's screaming at them, stop doing it that way because it's not working, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I got a little bit confused, maybe distracted because Frank was leaving and I gave him a hug bye. But So the 18th time he was getting ready to fight again, and this other guy, who I can't remember his name now,
Kalyavana.
decided to, yes. So the 18th time he joined him and
No,
wanted to fight too. I
he's
got
not,
confused about that, sorry.
he's not on the same side. He's motivated not by I got to get back at Krishna because Krishna killed my son-in-law. That's what Drasan is thinking. Kalyavana is just a guy who likes fighting, and he couldn't find any good matches anymore. He couldn't find anyone worthy to fight him, so he talked to Narada Muni. Where are the most powerful kings? And Narada Muni said, go to the Yadu kingdom. Try to start a fight with them. They're the most powerful. So he's, by the arrangement of the Leela, now he's attacking Mathura. And Krishna was, at one point, Krishna was saying time was running out because Kalyavana was encircling the whole Mathura, and they knew the next day Jarasandha was due to arrive. They had scouts telling him the next he's due to arrive. This other army, the first army, Jarasandha's army, is coming the next day. They didn't have any allegiance. They weren't working
Oh,
together.
they weren't working together, okay.
But Krishna thought, well, if Jarasandha attacks while I'm dealing with this other army, he could like get in the city and hurt the innocents. He could take advantage of me fighting a war on two fronts. I can't do that. So then, therefore, let me do this whole Dwarka thing where I send all the innocents somewhere safe, and then I'll deal with all these guys. First Kalyavana, because he's here, and then Jarasandha, because he's on the way.
Although he could fight on two fronts.
like, why
He could, but
He might have decided
Could
that.
have.
he didn't want to.
He wanted to create another place.
He has other purposes he'll fulfill in this chapter. We'll see, actually.
Okay, thanks for explaining that again. I missed a piece.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Problem. Chapter 51, the deliverance of Muchukunda. When Krishna came out of the city, Kalyavana, who had never seen Krishna before, saw him to be extraordinarily beautiful, dressed in yellow garments. Passing through Kalyavana's assembly of soldiers, Krishna appeared like the moon in the sky, passing through the assembled clouds. Kalyavana was fortunate enough to see the lines of Srivatsa, a particular impression on the chest of Sri Krishna, and the Kaustubha jewel he was wearing. Kalyavana saw him, however, in his Vishnu form, with a well-built body, 4 hands, and eyes like the petals of a newly blooming lotus. Krishna appeared blissful, with a handsome forehead and beautiful smiling face, restless eyebrows, and moving earrings. Before seeing Krishna, Kalyavana had heard about him from Narada, and now the descriptions of Narada were confirmed. Kalyavana noticed Krishna's specific marks and the jewels on his chest, his beautiful garland of lotus flowers, his lotus-like eyes, and similar beautiful bodily features. He concluded that this beautiful personality must be Vasudeva, for every description he had previously heard from Narada was substantiated by the presence of Krishna. Kalyavana was astonished to see Krishna passing through his army without any weapon in his hand and without any chariot. He was simply walking on foot. Kalyavana had come to fight with Krishna, and yet he had sufficient principles not to take up any kind of weapon. He decided to fight with him hand in hand. Thus he prepared to capture Krishna and fight. Krishna, however, went ahead without looking at Kalyavana. Kalyavana followed him with a desire to capture him, but in spite of his swift running, he could not capture Krishna. Krishna cannot be captured even by great yogis traveling at the speed of the mind. He can be captured only by those who follow the path of devotional service, and Kalyavana was not practiced in devotional service. He wanted to capture Krishna, and since he could not do so, he followed him from behind. Kalyavana began running very fast, thinking, now I am nearer, I will capture him, but he could not. Krishna led him far away and entered the cave of a hill. Kalyavana thought that Krishna was trying to avoid fighting him, and was therefore taking shelter of the cave. He rebuked him with the following words, "Oh, Krishna, I heard that you are a great hero born in the dynasty of Yadu, but I see that you are running away from fighting like a coward. It is not worthy of your good name and family tradition." Kalyavana was following, running very fast, but still, he could not catch Krishna because he was not freed from all contaminations of sinful life. According to Vedic culture, anyone who does not follow the regulative principles observed by the higher castes, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or even those observed by the laborer class, the Shudras, is called the Malecha, or Yavana. The Vedic social situation is so planned that persons accepted as Shudras can gradually be elevated to the position of Brahmins by the cultural advancement known as samskara, or the purificatory process. The verdict of the Vedic scriptures is that no one becomes a Brahmana or a Malecha simply by birth. By birth, everyone is accepted as a Shudra. One has to elevate themselves by the purificatory process to the stage of Brahminical life. If he doesn't, if he degrades himself further, he is then called a Malecha or Yavana. Kali Yavana belonged to the class of Mlechas and Yavanas. Contaminated by sinful activities, he could not approach Krishna. The principles from which higher class men are restricted, namely illicit sexual indulgence, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication, are an integral part of the lives of the Mlechas and Yavanas. Being bound by such sinful activities, one cannot make any advancement in God realization. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that only one who is completely freed from all sinful reactions can engage in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Of course, you can start practicing bhakti no matter what your habits are. What we find is that the practice of bhakti will purify your habits so that you can actually practice bhakti in a more concentrated way, qualitatively and quantitatively. When Krishna entered the cave of the hill, Kali Yavana followed, chastising him with various harsh words. Krishna suddenly disappeared from the demon's sight, but Kali Yavana followed and also entered the cave. The first thing he saw was a man lying down asleep within the cave. Kali Yavana was eager to fight with Krishna, and when he could not see Krishna, but instead saw only a man lying down, he thought that Krishna was sleeping within this cave. Kali Yavana was very much puffed up and proud of his strength, and he thought Krishna was avoiding the fight. Therefore, he strongly kicked the sleeping man, thinking him to be Krishna. The sleeping man had been lying down for a very long time. When awakened by the kicking of Kali Yavana, he immediately opened his eyes and began to look around in all directions. At last, he saw Kali Yavana standing nearby. The man had been untimely awakened and was therefore very angry. And when he looked upon Kali Yavana in his angry mood, rays of fire emanated from his eyes, and Kali Yavana burned to ashes within a moment. Is there a picture in the Krishna book?
I feel like there might be.
When Maharaj Parikshit heard this incident of Kali Yavana's being burned to ashes, he inquired about the sleeping man from Shukadeva Goswami. Who was he? Why was he sleeping there? How had he achieved so much power that instantly, by his glance, Kali Yavana was burned to ashes? How did he happen to be lying down in the cave of the hill? He put many questions before Shukadeva Goswami, and Shukadeva answered as follows. My dear king, this person was born in the very great family of King Ikshvaku, in which Lord Ramachandra was also born, and he happened to be the son of a great king known as Mandhata. He himself was also a great soul and was known popularly as Muchukunda. King Muchukunda was a strict follower of the Vedic principles of Brahminical culture, and he was truthful to his promise. He was so powerful that even demigods like Indra used to ask him to help in fighting the demons, and as such he often fought against the demons to protect the demigods. He is a human who was so powerful that he helped the demigods in their fights. The commander-in-chief of the demigods, known as Kartikeya, was satisfied with the fighting of King Muchukunda. But once he asked of the king, having taken too much trouble in fighting the demons, retire from fighting and take rest. Kartikeya addressed King Muchukunda, my dear king, you have sacrificed everything for the sake of the demigods. You had a very nice kingdom, undisturbed by any kind of enemy, but you left that kingdom, neglected your opulence and possessions, and never cared for fulfillment of your personal ambitions. Due to your long absence from your kingdom, while fighting the demons on behalf of the demigods, your queen, your children, your relatives, and your ministers have all passed away in due course of time. Time and tide wait for no man. Now, even if you return to your home, you will find no one living there. I don't think it's explicitly mentioned here, but it is in other places. The demigods exist in a higher stratum of the material world, and as such, time flows differently there. 1 hour there is many, many years of our time. So he fought for some time for the demigods, but Kartikeya has indicated to him, you've actually sacrificed everyone you knew because they lived out their life and you could never see them again because you've only aged a little bit, but they're gone. Generations have passed. Your city doesn't even exist anymore. This comes up again in other pastimes too. relativity of time. The influence of time is very strong. Time is so powerful that, because it is a representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, time is therefore stronger than the strongest. The influence of time can affect changes in subtle things without difficulty. No one can check the progress of time. As an animal tamer tames animals according to their will, time also adjusts things according to its own will. No one can supersede the arrangement made by Supreme Time. Thus, addressing Muchukunda, the demigod requested him to ask any benediction he might be pleased with, except the benediction of liberation. Liberation cannot be awarded by any living entity but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, another name of Lord Vishnu or Krishna is Mukunda, he who can award liberation. King Muchukunda had not slept for many, many years. He was engaged in the duty of fighting, and therefore he was very tired. So when the demigod offered a benediction, Muchukunda simply thought of sleeping. He replied as follows: "My dear Kartikeya, best of the demigods, I want to sleep now, and I want from you the following benediction. Grant me the power to burn to ashes by my mere glance anyone who disturbs my sleep and awakens me untimely. Please give me this benediction." The demigod agreed, and also gave him the benediction that he would be able to take complete rest. Then King Muchukunda entered the cave of the mountain. On the strength of the benediction of Kartikeya, Muchukunda burned Kalyavana to ashes simply by glancing at him. When the incident was over, Krishna came before King Muchukunda. Krishna had actually entered the cave to deliver King Muchukunda because of his austerity, but Krishna did not appear before him first. He arranged that first Kalyavana should come before him. That is the way of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He does one thing in such a way that many other purposes are served. He wanted to deliver King Muchukunda, who was sleeping in the cave, and at the same time he wanted to kill Kalyavana, who had attacked Mathura city. By this action he served all purposes. When Lord Krishna appeared before Muchukunda, the king saw him dressed in a yellow garment, his chest marked with the symbol of Srivatsa, and the Kaustubha jewel hanging around his neck. Krishna appeared before him with 4 hands as Vishnumurti, with a garland called Vaijayanti hanging from his neck down to his knees. He looked lustrous. His face was beautifully smiling, and he wore nice jeweled earrings on his ears. Krishna appeared more beautiful than a human can conceive. Not only did he appear in this feature, but he glanced over Muchukunda with great affection, attracting the king's mind. Although he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the oldest of all, he looked like a fresh young boy, and his movements were just like those of a free deer. Still, he appeared extremely powerful. His influence and vast power are so great that every human should be afraid of him. When King Muchukunda saw Krishna's magnificent features, he inquired about his identity, and with great humility he asked the Lord, "My dear Lord, may I inquire how it is that you happen to be in the cave of this mountain? Who are you? I can see that your feet are just like soft lotus flowers. How could you walk in the forest full of thorns and pebbles? I am simply surprised to see this. Are you not, therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the most powerful amongst the powerful? Are you not the original source of all illumination and fire? Can I consider you one of the great demigods like the sun god, the moon god, or Indra, the king of heaven? Or are you the predominating deity of some other planet?" Muchukunda knew well that every higher planetary system has a predominating deity. He was not ignorant like modern men who think that this planet Earth is full of living entities and all others are vacant. The inquiry from Muchukunda about Krishna's being the predominating deity of a planet unknown to him is quite appropriate. Because he was a pure devotee of the Lord, Muchukunda could immediately understand that Lord Krishna, who had appeared before him in such an opulent feature, could not be one of the predominating deities of the material planets. He must be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who has many Vishnu forms. Muchukunda therefore took him to be Purushottama, Lord Vishnu. He could see also that the dense darkness within the mountain cave had been dissipated by the Lord's presence. Therefore, he could not be other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Muchukunda knew very well that wherever the Lord is personally present by his transcendental name, qualities, form, and so on, there cannot be any darkness of ignorance. He is like a lamp placed in the darkness. He immediately illuminates a dark place. King Muchukunda was eager to know the identity of Lord Krishna, and therefore he said, "O best of human beings, if you think I am fit to know your identity, kindly tell me who you are. What is your parentage? What is your occupational duty? And what is your family tradition?" King Muchukunda thought it wise, however, to identify himself to the Lord first, otherwise he had no right to ask the Lord's identity. Etiquette is such that a person of less importance cannot ask the identity of a person of higher importance without first disclosing their own identity. King Muchukunda therefore told Lord Krishna, "My dear Lord, let me first inform you of my identity. I belong to the most celebrated dynasty of King Ishvaku. But personally, I am not as great as my forefather. My name is Muchukunda. My father's name was Mandhata, and my grandfather was the great king Yuvanashva. I was very much fatigued due to not resting for many thousands of years, and because of this, all my bodily limbs were slack and almost incapable of acting. To revive my energy, I was taking rest in this solitary cave, but I have been awakened by some unknown man who has forced me to wake up, although I was not willing to do so. For such an offensive act, I have burned this person to ashes simply by glancing over him. Fortunately, now I can see you in this grand and beautiful feature. I think that, therefore, that you are the cause of my killing my enemy. My dear Lord, I must admit that, due to your bodily effulgence, unbearable to my eyes, I cannot see you properly. I can fully realize that the influence of your effulgence has diminished my power. I can understand that you are quite fit for being worshipped by all living entities." Seeing King Muchukunda eager to know about his identity, Lord Krishna answered smilingly as follows: "My dear king, it is practically impossible to tell about my birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. Perhaps you know that my incarnation, Anantadeva, has unlimited mouths, and for an unlimited time he has been trying to narrate fully about my name, fame, qualities, activities, appearance, disappearance, and incarnations, but still he has not been able to finish. Therefore, it is not possible to know exactly how many names and forms I possess."
Deva, that's something that's familiar to me.
Anantadeva is an expansion of Balaram, who supports the universes on his hoods. He's a 1,000-headed serpent.
On his hoods?
Yeah.
Hoods, not hooves.
Hoods.
Hoods.
He has multiple hoods, and each universe is like a mustard seed for him. It's just insignificant. He carries them on and also glorifies the Lord endlessly, and he never runs out of glorification.
I think
It may,
there's a picture of that in the book.
oh, exciting.
The snake hood, or like,
You know, earlier in the Krishna book, when
It might be a different hood.
when Vasudeva carried Krishna over the Yamuna River, and it's described that Anantadev came and acted as an umbrella for him because it was raining.
Oh, yeah.
If you go back to that picture, you'll see that Krishna is covered with the hoods of the serpent. Balaram expands as Anantadev there to ornament him and assist in that pastime. It may be possible for a material scientist to estimate the number of atomic particles which make up this earthly planet, but the scientist cannot enumerate my unlimited names, forms, and activities. Many great sages and saintly persons have tried to list my different forms and activities, yet they have failed to make a complete list. Here's,
That's it, right?
yeah.
Different.
Well, it's a different pastime, but it's the same person. Anantadev. You can see also
Earlier.
a lot earlier, when Krishna was born. Here's Vasudeva carrying him across the Yamuna River with Anantadev.
And so Anantadev is an expansion of Balaram?
Yes,
Okay. His big brother's always looking out for him.
big brother always looking.
Kesha is another name for Balaram.
Shesha is like Anantadev, yeah. He's a name for Balaram. It may be possible for material scientists to estimate the number of atomic particles which make up this earthly planet, but the scientists cannot enumerate my unlimited names, forms, and activities. Many great sages and saintly persons have tried to list my different forms and activities, yet they have failed to make a complete list. But since you are so eager to know about me, I may inform you that I have now appeared on this planet just to annihilate the demoniac principles of the people in general and re-establish the religious principles enjoined in the Vedas. I have been invited for this purpose by Brahma, the superintending deity of this universe, and thus I have now appeared in the dynasty of the Yadus as one of their family members. I have specifically taken my birth as the son of Vasudeva in the Yadu dynasty, and people therefore know me as Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva. You may also know that I have killed Kamsa, who in a previous life was known as Kalanemi, as well as Pralambasura and many other demons. They have acted as my enemies, and I have killed them. The demon who is present before you also acted as my enemy, and you have very kindly burned him to ashes by glancing over him. My dear King Machukunda, you are my great devotee, and just to show you my causeless mercy, I have appeared in this cave. I am very affectionately inclined toward my devotees, and in your previous life, before your present condition, you acted as my great devotee, and prayed for my causeless mercy. I have therefore come to see you, to fulfill your desire. Now you can see me to your heart's content. My dear King, now you may ask for me any benediction you wish, and I am prepared to fulfill your desire. It is my eternal principle that anyone who comes under my shelter must have all his desires fulfilled by my grace. When Lord Krishna ordered King Mushukunda to ask a benediction from him, the king was joyful. And he immediately remembered the prediction of Gargamuni, who had foretold long before that in the 28th millennium of Vaivasvata Manu, Lord Krishna would appear on this planet. As soon as he remembered this prediction, he understood that the Supreme Person, Narayana, was present before him as Lord Krishna. He immediately fell down at his lotus feet and began to pray as follows. My dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, I can understand that all living entities on this planet are illusioned by your external energy and enamored of the illusory satisfaction of sense gratification. Being fully engaged in illusory activities, they are reluctant to worship your lotus feet. And because they are unaware of the benefits of surrendering onto your lotus feet, they are subjected to various miserable conditions of material existence. They are foolishly attracted to so-called society, friendship, and love, which merely produce different kinds of miseries. Illusioned by your external energy, everyone, whether man or woman, is attached to this material existence, and all are engaged in cheating one another in a great society of the cheaters and the cheated. These foolish persons, not knowing how fortunate they are to have attained this human form of life, are reluctant to worship your lotus feet. By the influence of your external energy, they are attached to the glare of material activities, to so-called society, friendship, and love, like dumb animals that have fallen into a dark well. The example of a dark well is given because in the fields there are many wells unused for years and covered over by grass, and poor animals, not knowing of them, fall into them, and unless rescued, they die. Being captivated by a few blades of grass, the animals fall into a dark well and meet death. Similarly, foolish persons, without knowing the importance of the human form of life, spoil it simply for sense gratification and die without any useful purpose. My dear Lord, I am not an exception to this universal law of material nature. I am also a foolish person who has wasted his time for nothing. And my position is especially difficult. On account of my being situated in the royal order, I was more puffed up than ordinary persons. An ordinary man thinks he's the proprietor of his body or his family, but I began to think in that way on a larger scale. I wanted to be the master of the whole world. And as I became puffed up with ideas of sense gratification, my bodily conception of life became stronger and stronger. My attachment for home, wife, and children, for money and supremacy over the world became more and more acute. In fact, it was limitless. So I remained always attached to thoughts of my material living conditions. Therefore, my dear Lord, I wasted so much of my valuable lifetime with no benefit. As my misconception of life intensified, I began to think of this material body, which is just a bag of flesh and bones, as the all in all. And in my vanity, I believed I had become the king of human society. In this misconception of bodily life, I traveled all over the world, accompanied by my military strength, soldiers, charioteers, elephants, and horses. Assisted by many commanders and puffed up by power, I could not trace out your lordship, who always sit within my heart as the most intimate friend. I did not care for you, and this was the fault of my so-called exalted material condition. I think that, like me, All living creatures are careless about spiritual realization and are always full of anxieties, thinking, what is to be done? What is next? But because we are strongly bound by material desires, we continue to remain in craziness. Yet in spite of our being so absorbed in material thought, inevitable time, which is only a form of yourself, is always careful about its duty. And as soon as the allotted time is over, your lordship immediately ends all the activities of our material dreams. As the time factor, you end all our activities, as a hungry black snake swiftly swallows up a small rat without leniency. Due to the action of cruel time, the royal body, which was always decorated with golden ornaments during life, and which moved on a chariot drawn by beautiful horses or on the back of an elephant, nicely decorated with golden ornaments, and which was advertised as the king of human society, that same royal body decomposes under the influence of inevitable time and becomes fit for being eaten by worms and insects, or being turned into ashes, or the stool of an animal. This beautiful body may be recognized as a royal body while in the living condition, but after death, the body of even a king is eaten by an animal and therefore turned into stool, or is cremated in a crematorium and turned into ashes, or is put into an earthly grave, where different kinds of worms and insects are produced of it. My dear Lord, we come under the full control of this inevitable time, not only after death, but also in a different way while living. For example, I may be a powerful king, and yet when I come home after conquering the world, I become subjected to many material conditions. When I come back victorious, all subordinate kings may come and offer their respects, but as soon as I enter the inner section of my palace, I myself become an instrument in the hands of the queens. And for sense gratification, I have to fall down at the feet of women. The material way of life is so complicated that before taking the enjoyment of material life, one has to work so hard that there is scarcely an opportunity for peacefully enjoying. And to attain all material facilities, one has to undergo severe austerities and penances and be elevated to the heavenly planets. If one gets the opportunity to take birth in a very rich or royal family, even then he is always anxious to maintain the status quo and prepare for the next life by performing various sacrifices and distributing charity. Even in royal life, one is full of anxieties, not only because of political administration, but also in regard to being elevated to the heavenly planets. What a stark vision. I mean, he was so powerful that the demigods recruited him. That's how otherworldly he was. He was like beyond the capacity of any human being. But he said, I was so intoxicated that after coming home and defeating everybody, I neglected to notice that even I had to beg to have some intimate time with my wife or wives. You think you can be like Krishna, you can just like conquer everything, and like, but you never can. Prabhupada said, whether you're a poor man or a rich man, you can only fit 4 chapatis in your stomach. You know, like it's all just a sham. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have 6 chapatis or just get sick. Then your next meal you can only have 2. You can't mess with your position. You're always just a servant. So whether you're serving Krishna directly or you're serving his energy by being at the beck and call of Maya, one way you're serving. So one way or another. So Muchukunda is like humbly admitting, even I was subjected to this illusion. It is therefore very difficult to get out of material entanglement, but if one is somehow or other favored by you, by your mercy alone, he is given the opportunity to associate with a pure devotee. That is the beginning of liberation from the entanglement of material conditioned life. My dear Lord, only by the association of pure devotees is one able to approach your lordship, who are the controller of both the material and the spiritual existences. You are the supreme goal of all pure devotees. And by association with pure devotees, one can develop his dormant love for you. Therefore, development of Krishna consciousness in the association of pure devotees is the cause of liberation from this material entanglement. We'll stop there. This is a famous verse that Prabhupada is paraphrasing. Muchukunda is telling us that the association of devotees is what ultimately causes one's liberation. There's a very beautiful poetic verse in this 51st chapter of the Bhagavatam, Canto 10, that says this, that he's saying this here. This is his realization after so many years of performing his duties perfectly as a human being, serving the demigods, getting retirement, resting, coming back to external consciousness and seeing the Lord, because he had performed so many austerities in the course of his service. He'd been a great devotee before. He realized, actually, the real benediction is to have the association of devotees. Everything else was just a lie, I told myself. Great king, this, husband, father, conqueror, ruler, was all just a show. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So let's take any comments, questions, and reflections for a couple minutes if we have any. And then we're going to give you some homework for the weekend. We'll talk about next week and our plan going forward. Anything that stood out?
There was twice, it's sort of a small point, but two different times the analogy or the phrasing, the speed of the mind, like referring to it like the speed of the mind, or comparing whatever it was to the speed of the mind. And that really struck me. I'm used to hearing like the speed of light or the speed of sound, right? But the mind is so flickering and like so moves so fast.
Yeah, just think about India. How long does it take for your subtle body to go there? It's pretty much instantaneous. Think about the childhood home you grew up in. How long does it take you to get there?
Right.
You're there.
Right.
That's the speed of the mind, and then you can be back here. So it's an aphorism in Sanskrit. Speed of the wind is also given. It's very fast, but the speed of the mind is like next level.
It's faster than the speed of light.
Yeah,
And speed
definitely.
Yeah. What is that in Sanskrit?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think it's Manasavega or something. No, maybe I might be wrong. I have to look it up.
Speed of the mind.
Yeah.
And there's
I
like
think-
it's just kind of like I'm gonna say like a trite phrase, but like everything happens for a reason. And Krishna actually spelled it out. It's kind of like, okay, like, yeah, I could have fought them on two fronts. I could have done all these things, but I had a couple things to do. And so why not, for kind of fun, let's combine these activities together and let's make them happen. So again, like reflecting on our lives, it's like, okay, why did all this happen? Like, okay, well then if this had, like, as we get older and as we reach like past-ish middle age, like you kind of can look back on little puzzles and be like, oh, this is so cool watching it all work. And to try to keep that sensibility as we kind of continue through our lives, like, okay, like Krishna's doing this. There is reason that is completely like out of my capacity to understand, but it's his will. So just being able to own that.
Yeah, it's like in a game of chess, you have great chess players will be thinking 7 or 8 moves ahead. So when they play a move, it can serve a purpose in the short term, another purpose in the middle term, and another purpose in the long term. And it's described that like we're all playing a game of chess with Krishna, but he's like a million moves ahead. So the devotee just like stops trying to compete. And if they're like you said, if something happens, they're like, I don't know why that happened. They just trust Krishna's, because he wanted to protect the citizens of Mathura. He gave Narada Muni the chance to like interfere and tell Kalyavana to come fight him. He's giving Kalyavana the benediction of being killed by a devotee, but he's also ignoring him because he's running away from the battle. He's giving Muchukunda the interaction that he deserves as a devotee. He's giving Balaram stewardship of Dwarka. He's created Dwarka, which is going to be crucial later for other things. And all of it is like, what? So, yeah, he's a great multitasker, is Krishna. Any more reflections?
I just thought it was interesting, how Mother Yashoda couldn't capture Krishna, but Krishna loved her so much that he finally said, yes, because you're a devotee. Yes, you can have me, and you can tie me up eventually after several fits and starts. But here wasn't a chance that he was ever going to be caught. That was not the purpose.
Kalyavana wasn't trying to surrender. Kalyavana was trying to call him. Kalyavana was trying to pin the butterfly to the thing. I want to own him. I want to control him. It's like that's never going to happen.
Yeah. So chances are he's going to have to come back and do it again in a different way.
Yeah, but he did get killed by a devotee, so that's something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what his fate is, if it's spelled out. He died in Krishna's presence. He may have been liberated. Yeah, let's pause there. So for this week, read chapters 50 and 51. And please reflect back anything from your readings. And if you're behind, you can reflect back on that. We had some reflections from chapters 46 and 47. Uddhava speaking to the residents of Vrindavan is still very relevant and beautiful. And next week is going to be our 13th class of this Krishna book reading. So what we're going to do is we're going to, as I think I said at the beginning of the container, we're going to have 13 classes. We had a bonus one too with His Holiness Bodhayan Swami. Yeah. And what we're going to do is we're going to wrap that container up as we wrapped up our first container of Krishna book. And I'm sitting with different options of what to go with. We can, like more Krishna book, finish the Krishna book. I'm thinking Bhagavatam, I'm thinking something about Lord Chaitanya, different things. And what I'd like is, if you're feeling really called to something specific, get in touch with us and let us know. Because I have my ideas, and I know what we've gone through together and what's a good idea to read next. And I'm also open to hearing people's opinions if they have a very strong attachment for something. If you don't have a strong attachment, don't worry, because that just means you trust it's going to be great, which it will, one way or another. And we'll talk about it next week.
We'll take a week off in between.
And then after next week, we'll take a week off, as we always do, to miss it, frankly. And you don't have to take a week off. You can just keep reading Krishna book. No one can stop you.
Yeah.
But we won't broadcast it.
Yeah.
Okay? All right. Shri Krishna book ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Panchakalpatarupyashta kripasindhubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. May we learn the lesson that Jarasandha refused to learn. Stop fighting Krishna. Give up the stubborn fight and just bow your head to him. Hare Krishna. Thanks, everyone.